Welcome to the Fourth Row Podcast, your exclusive source for two-way basketball. And now, your hosts, coming to you from the Slim Force Studio, Andy and Benny Hill.
Welcome to the Fourth Row Podcast, the only podcast dedicated solely to two-way basketball it's springtime. Here in the springtime time of Utah.
I got a sunburn, can you tell? A little bit on my forehead and my ears are a little red.
Yeah, a little bit of sun down there in St. George.
There was
no sun in
We'll talk
Gunnison
about that in a little bit, but yeah, I did get a sunburn, oddly enough. There wasn't much sun actually visible, but I've been told that scientifically you can still get a sunburn through clouds. Is that correct?
I've heard that, yes.
I got a sunburn through clouds.
Nice. I'm your host, Andy Hill. I'm here with the coach, Benny Hill, in the Slim Force Studio, sponsored by Security National. As always, we'd like to thank our good friend and Manti Templar, Chris Jorgensen in the Ephraim office, for once again being our title sponsor. For any of your mortgage needs, give him a call, 283-3000. As he says, turning houses into homes. A couple of announcements about the Fourth Row Podcast. The Fourth Row Podcast is still the number one two-way basketball podcast in the state of Utah. I believe it's 46 weeks running now. I lose track of it. It really doesn't matter because we're still the number one podcast.
There you go.
We may be the only one, but we're still the number one. The audio
undefeated and untouchable.
That's right.
46 weeks running.
The audio version of the podcast usually releases Sunday night. We have a couple people who are faithfully listeners. I know Levon Randall down in Enterprise. If we don't get it up Sunday night, he will text me Monday morning and wonder where the podcast is.
I actually like that.
Yeah.
It's actually very good to have that prodding.
Yeah, it's nice. The YouTube version, usually we get it released first of next week. We've had a lot of things going on. We'll talk about that later on tonight. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media channels at Fourth Row Media. Also, if you missed any of the games, you can go back and check them out on teamhive.live,
yes.
And you can also find the archived podcast. So if you're just new to the show and you want to catch up with the last season or whenever it is, check out teamhive.live. Also, you can get on YouTube and check them out. Benny, what we got going on tonight?
We have a lot going on. Now, this is going to be kind of a alarm. My laptop's really getting after it here with all my messages coming in. We have a lot of things going on. A lot of things going through my mind over the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we launched our state championship recap. Mm-hmm. It would have been the day after the state championship when the Parowan Rams. Congrats to the Parowan Rams on their first championship, I believe, since around
early 90s.
Anyway, 20, I don't know. I shouldn't even say. Maybe we should go look and see. I don't want to get persecuted for getting that date wrong, so please look that up because I don't want to get nailed for that one.
Yeah.
But congratulations to the Parowan Rams, Coach Rod Murphy, and his team. They had a fantastic run through the state tournament, and they win the title.
Yeah.
So congrats to them. So we put up 3 podcasts 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It's been 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks,
God,
yep.
Went by fast. Put up 2 podcasts. We did our state championship wrap-up, and then we did our top 20 drafts for boys. Then we added girls this year. So we had an individual podcast for each one of those. And thank you to everyone that has went on and downloaded those. Those have been very popular. Mm-hmm. Some of our more popular podcasts this season has been our past 3.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
So to get that wrap-up at the end of the season plus the drafts, it's just been an awesome time, and we'll talk about the subsequent game, and kind of the debacle that transpired from that. So we're going to cover all that stuff. We're going to wrap basketball up tonight.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about our honorary, our Memorial Jackson Hill Player of the Year winners for both girls and boys. When we started this whole thing. And we haven't really brought this up a lot since. We don't bring it up. We do bring it up sometimes, I should say, what the Fourth Row really is or what it means. A lot of it stems from my son Jackson, who passed away in 2021, and this is kind of the whole motivation behind this is to remember him. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we're gonna name our players of the year for boys and girls tonight, which is probably no secret. But we're going to do that. And we're going to just one more time run through our top 20 players for boys and girls. Mm-hmm. And then we have a lot of random thoughts to cover tonight. And we don't know how this is going to go. We were going to really script it and make sure we were really on task on this one, but I think we're just going to go by the seat of our pants. What do you think about that?
We'll just wing it. We've done it before.
So anyway, there's going to be a smorgasbord, a lot of things we're going to talk about, some basketball, some baseball, some track, some UHSAA. It's going to be a variety of topics tonight, so it should be fun.
Yeah. Well, let's get going. How was your weekend, by the way?
Like I said, I went to St. George, and I got a sunburn on my forehead and my nose and my ears. We went down to the first track meet for probably almost every school at Snow Canyon High School. Mm-hmm. It was big.
That's what one thing I heard from feedback from both some boys and girls that were down there was there were way too many people there. I shouldn't say way too many people. There was a lot of people there.
Well, it also depends on the scenario and the circumstances. Like, for instance, the two best meets to go to all year long will be the BYU Invitational and the state track meet, which is at BYU. Mm-hmm. And they are run flawlessly. And the BYU Invitational is one of the largest, if not the largest, high school track meet in the western United States.
Really? So
it's not a matter of the amount of people present. It's the execution logistically of pulling it all off. Mm-hmm. Now, to Snow Canyon, they did a fantastic job of running through as many people were there. I mean, it's not like it wasn't. It was very well organized and well done. Just a lot of people, mm-hmm. and we have a lot of people at a track meet. Logistically, it kind of churns pretty slowly. Mm-hmm. But Snow Canyon did a fantastic job. They had a lot of teams, and they got through it. They had to deal with some weather, some lightning, some interruptions, but to their they got through it.
Good.
Everyone got to run, and every event every event went off. So, but it was good for the kids to get out on the track.
Oh, that's good.
Interesting side note: Travis Stewart is running.
I did see that.
Yes, I ran into him briefly, introduced myself, and I just told him, "Man, this is so awesome! You're out here running again."
Yeah, I did see him. So,
reason why we bring him up is he is the champion in 100 and 200 and 2A returning.
Yeah.
And he can absolutely fly.
Yeah, hurt his knee in football last year. A little worried that he wouldn't be back, but I did. Kanab track and field, as far as track and field goes, at least on Instagram that I follow.
They do a very good job.
They are all over. I saw they had 2 school records this weekend, long distance stuff. Glacier girl down there. Two, I think 1,600 and 32. I'm not a track connoisseur, but then I did see Travis Stewart on there.
Yes. So he's back running. He's fast still, so that's exciting. I'm very, very happy for him that he's back on it. And I had big intentions of going in and meeting Kanab's track coach just because they are so active on Instagram, and they do a fantastic job there. I didn't have a chance to link up with him, but like I said, there's just so much going on. But Coach, we do want to link up with you at the next meet, just to learn more about your team, what you got going on there.
Yeah, so I know in addition to track, there was a lot of baseball going on. There was baseball in Mesquite, in Delta, Kanab. There was a lot of things going on. Most of the games, I think, far down south in Mesquite got pulled off. I think St. George was okay. Kanab, the Chuck Wagon Classic's been going on for a long. We played in the Chuck Wagon Classic back in the day.
Isn't that funny? Think about it. That thing's long standing.
Yeah, one of the longest standing tournaments around. It's still going down to Kanab. A lot of the games kind of went off. Some of them didn't. We had snow. We had rain. We had cold. It's springtime in Utah, and it's a late spring this year. So spring sports are going to take a little bit of a hit this year, I'm afraid.
These first couple weeks and the next few weeks might be a little rugged, which is hard. But that's you don't have an option. You got to get games in.
Yeah. So we'll just keep going. As a follow-up to your question earlier, the last state championship for the Parowan Rams, 2004, coached by
Matt Labram.
Yeah.
Our good friend Matt Labram.
So anyway, there you go. 2004, so it would have been 19 years since they've won a state championship in basketball.
So congratulations to the Parowan Rams. They are excited in Parowan.
Absolutely. Yeah, good for them. A lot of good things going on, and
got to give a special shout out to my good friend Harrison Cheney. Ran into him down at the track meet, and he told me that he'd bought a hoodie off the website.
Oh, really?
I said, you didn't have to buy a hoodie, man. I'll give you a hoodie. You're one of our best fans.
Yeah, I don't know him that well. Other than
fantastic! He's fantastic to visit with. Yes. So he was got a chance to talk to him a lot about the basketball season and the championship, and great young man.
Yeah,
he's interesting. He's a track guy and a soccer guy.
Really,
does both.
Oh, good for him. Let's while we're talking about basketball, let's roll right into let's have a brief wrap up of our draft from 2 weeks ago.
So I'm assuming, unless we have new listeners, everyone is familiar with what we do. Everybody traditionally, not everybody, but the Des News, Salt Lake Tribune, most publications will have an all-state team, and that consists of first team, second team, some third teams, and honorable mentions. So really you're talking about 20 to 24 or 5 players anyway. We just decided to divide ours up into, top 20. So we just kind of throw them out there. We label ours different as we have captains, starters, and reserves or bench players, just like a typical team. And what we do is we go and draft accordingly. Andy drafts, say, for instance, I think you ended up with first pick. You got Brock Felder. So I got to imagine I got to have somebody that can defend Brock Felder on my team. And so I got to draft accordingly. So we drafted our top 20 players. You want to go through those tonight?
Yeah.
Just kind of a recap of what we had.
Yeah, let's talk about, first of all, we picked a MVP that we'll talk about here in a minute. But we had 2 team captains. We both kind of decided on a captain, but collectively we agreed. Brady Crouch from Enterprise was one of the captains, and then Hunter Rhodes from Millard High School was the other captain.
So Andy, his team was Team Crouch, and mine was Team Rhodes. And so from there, we flipped a coin and we picked who we wanted to start building our team with. And we'll run down Andy's team real quick. Andy's starters for Team Crouch: Brock Felder, Cale Glover, Austin Thomas, Brady Crouch, Ridge Tebbs.
Wow, it would have been so much
dynamic
fun.
lineup right there. You got bigs, you got shooting guard, you got a fantastic, probably one of the best point guards in the state, Brady Crouch. You got Austin Thomas giving you some length and some scoring in the post. Ridge Tebbs shooting deep balls. Cale Glover just scoring, and Brock Felder is just an absolute monster.
Oh yeah,
fantastic starting lineup. I countered that with I have my captain was Hunter Rhodes from Millard. I have Kason Janes, Kanab, Emilio Miramontes, South Sevier, Cash Mortensen, Parowan, and Jordan Cornell, Kanab.
wow.
What's funny about this is everyone that I've talked to, and we've talked to a lot of people have messaged us or commented on our teams. A lot of people have talked to us since then and talked about, asked questions about the game. And most people can look at this list and they can say, dude, I don't know which one's the best team.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of this is Des News can throw out this way. We're going to make teams here. And then we had this wise idea. Well, let's have a game with these, which is like mind blowing that we put this out there last year and people were like, well, dude, why don't we just play this game? We thought, well, that's a fantastic idea. Why don't it? We'll get to that in just a second. Our reserves.
Yeah. So my reserves on Team Crouch, I had Jep Young. I love Jep Young. He had a fantastic season down the way for Duchesne.
A lot of fun to watch.
Brant Stevens from Millard, hometown John Wilden, Randy Elmer from North Sevier, and then our homer alert, Jet Hill. Those were my 5 reserves for Team Crouch.
We had to make some adjustments.
We did have some reserves. We added Anthony Doan. Because we had some logistics, we're trying to get some players here. So Anthony Doan, who was right there, we had a lot of guys right there that we were trying to get on, but we did invite Anthony Doan from San Juan to come over, and he had agreed to come over. So that's who our reserves would have been.
Just through the grapevine and talking with people he was extremely ticked when we canceled the game.
Oh yeah, I got some emails from his dad and
gosh, dang it. Anyway, so those are your reserves.
Yeah.
My reserves from the Parowan Rams, big man Luke Millett from Duchesne. Parker Crum had a fantastic state tournament. He carried the Eagles. He did. Big, huge shots. Our good friend from North Summit, Mel Brown.
Mel would have been the favorite guy there.
You see the people doing jersey swaps and picks. He would have had a jersey swap with probably just about everybody.
Oh, yeah. Mel, you see Mel, Mel is friends with everybody.
Yeah.
He's the guy. He's the guy that we. Anyway, if we kind of had a poster child with fourth row, it's Mel Brown because he is the guy that brings everybody together.
That's a fantastic point. I thought about that a lot, and I thought, who are the ones that would make this more enjoyable socially? Mel.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, all these guys would have been fantastic, but Mel.
Yeah, he's a He's a dandy. All right. Finishing out my team had Kai Dowdle from Roland Hall and Ricky Patterson from American Heritage. That finished my reserves out.
Yeah.
So that gave us both 20 players. We had 5 starters. We have a couple extras in there because of our captains and our MVP. But we thought this was the best way to recognize these players is to put them on a team. And for heaven's sakes, let's get out on the court and play. Makes a lot of sense, you would think.
Yeah.
Would think.
Let's not forget, too, we also picked a girls' team this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's run down the girls really quick, and then we can get into some.
So with the girls
details.
this year, we obviously, everyone that's been listening to the podcast, Peyton came on the show. We met up with her. We spoke with her last summer, I think, and said, hey, we have this idea of adding girls basketball because we think it's a good fit, and you are the one. We need someone that's a girls basketball expert. And she's been all in.
Yeah.
She was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we just from the very get-go, we knew we couldn't carry it. That was kind of Ben threw it out to me, and we both kind of like, I don't know. We not because we didn't want to, but we knew we had to do it right.
Well, it had to be authentic and genuine, and for us just to throw some stuff out there, I mean, we're being frank about that, completely transparent. It would not have been genuine. And
No.
not that we didn't want to do it, but just our knowledge.
Yeah.
We would have just been
So
muddling through it. So
she was shout out to Peyton. She helped carry this girls and got us on board, and it was a fantastic year for the girls. And so let's run down the girls team.
a super special shout out to Peyton. She was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
did a great job. Let's see here. Girls, we had 2 teams, our 2 captains, and these were drafted by Peyton and her husband, Coach Shep, which was cool in itself too, because I think they had some bantering going on back at home. Team Bradshaw, the captain Danzy Bradshaw from Beaver, the leader of the first team here. Starters for that team: Samantha Karchner, APA Draper, Tani Air, Beaver. Excuse me, those are the reserves. Hold on a second. Let me find the girls. Here we go. Okay, sorry, my mistake. Team Bradshaw, led by Danzy Bradshaw from Beaver. Starters for that team: Riley Little, Aaliyah Baldwin, APA Draper, Trey Torgerson, North Sevier, and Ashlyn Houston from Kanab. Yeah. Great team too.
Oh, I was excited to see them all play, but I was excited to see Aaliyah Baldwin come down and play.
I went back and looked. I think it was Samantha Karchner, one of her teammates, sent a link. I think it was a YouTube link. She said, hey, you might want to check this out. She was shooting bombs from the volleyball line, and there was a lot of them going up.
Yeah. I was so excited, and I traded some emails with her dad, and they were excited to come down. I was so excited to have them come down. That would have been a whole lot of fun.
Absolutely. Who you got? The other team was Heartland Richards.
Heartland Richards
was our
from
other
North
captain.
Summit was the captain. The starters on that team were Heartland Richards, Chesley Langston, Talia Lisa, Anna Cutler, and Gentry Brown.
We had interesting enough, I didn't know. Sometimes you get comments on Instagram and Messenger. You don't know if it's snarky, if it's genuine. It's hard to read intent on comments. So anyway, you got one. There was a comment as, wow, one of these teams looks stacked. And I'm like, well, which one?
Yeah. To me, those...
Because, man, you look at it both ways. You're like, this one? No, this one. No, I could go this one or this one.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the guards, everybody lined up. Like the Riley Little, Chesley Langston would have been fantastic. You know, Danzy Bradshaw, Heartland, everybody on those starters. It was, to me, that's pretty evenly matched
dynamic.
team.
Absolutely. Our reserves... for Team Bradshaw, we had Samantha Karchner, APA Draper, Tani Air, Beaver, Brooklyn Butler, North Sevier, Kelsey Grant, Duchesne, Sydney Patterson, South Sevier, and Riley Dyring, hometown Gunnison Bully Dogs.
And then the reserves for Team Richens, Presley Peterson, I believe from North Summit, correct?
Yes.
Brooklyn Hewitt and Parowan Rams, Kara Camp Millard, Kinley Jensen, South Sevier, Kale Torgerson, North Sevier, and Bella Robinson, Parowan.
Yes.
So that the boys' game would have been fun. The girls' game would have been fantastic.
Oh, and I think just the combination of having them both there back to back, we've got 40 of the the top 2A players playing back-to-back games in one gym would have been dynamic.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the game. I know last year we tried to pull it off, and we were in over our heads last year.
Well, last year we came up with the draft idea, and that came off unbelievably good, better than we could expect. And it was instantly, we got messages coming back saying, let's play this. Yeah. Players, coaches, let's get this done. And we're like, whoa, we didn't even think that far. Mm-hmm. So quickly we started to look logistically and just see that it just wasn't enough time last year to make it happen. So from then, it's been a goal of ours since that time to logistically put things in place that we could pull this thing off. Take it from there.
So, we a little bit of a background. So we thought, we're going to have this game, First of all, we got to find a place to have the game. So we were looking at dates. We couldn't quite make it first at work here in Gunnison, which was ideal for us. So I reached out to Coach Glazier, and he said, yeah, if you want to have it in Kanab, let's have it in Kanab. So we kind of set a weekend when we were going to do it, and then things fell into place to where we could have it here in Gunnison. So we had picked believe it was the 9th of March. It was a Thursday. We stayed away from baseball. We stayed away from track. I talked to the principal here in Gunnison. He ran it through the district. We had officials ready to go. We had TeamHive.live ready to broadcast the game. We had play-by-play announcers. Pepsi Cola had donated a bunch of Gatorade and water to us. We had some other people reach out to give us donations for the game. We had swag in place, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. Referees. We had music. We had starting lineups. We had everything that we needed to do, in addition to having 40-plus players and coaches who were committed to come to the game. Everybody we reached out to, barring a couple here or there, just because of logistics, said, we will be there.
So in full disclosure, too, last week we did not do a podcast because in all reality, we were planning.
Yes.
We were putting the final planning touches of the game that last Sunday night. And we sat down and we're like, do we need to record a podcast? We're like, we got so much going on. We just did 3 last week, the week prior. So we're like, I think we'll be good. Levon might be ticked, but but he'll give us a pass for this week. And so we put all the finishing touches on Sunday night. Mm-hmm. And we were ready to rock and roll, and then Monday morning, the bomb started flying.
Was it Monday or Tuesday?
I thought it was, irregardless, one of those 2 days, bombs started flying.
Yeah, so in full disclosure, there was an email that went out to all the coaches, and essentially just said, if you've got players, especially underclassmen who are involved in this game, you might want to let them know that there could be possible repercussions. Is that safe to say?
They could lose eligibility.
They could lose eligibility if they play this game. And so instantly we shut it down. We called some folks. Ultimately, I ended up on the phone with the UHSAA trying to get some clarification. We thought maybe we had a loophole somewhere. Long story short, we had to shut the game down. To say that it stung or hurt that's the understatement of the year.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I jokingly put that post on Instagram with the guy, getting his chops busted in with the black eye, and honestly, that is exactly how I felt that whatever morning it was, say Tuesday morning. We took it on the chin. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a heavy blow. And it came so fast and unannounced, we just didn't have any time to get ahead of it. And so we sent the letter out and just said, hey, this is the scenario. We don't exactly know why. There's assumptions being made and there's policies being thrown out, but we wanted clarification from the High School Activity Association. Yeah. Because that was the ultimate, obviously that's the governing body. Correct. And that is what these policies were being submitted as the reason why we couldn't host the game. So we needed some clarification.
Yeah, and so we did reach out to them, and just to set the facts straight, just so everybody knows, we had went through all the proper channels to make sure this was in place. We went through our high school, through Gunnison Valley High School. They had reached out to the district. We felt like we had went through all the steps that needed to be done to make everybody aware. We didn't think there was going to be issue. It was after the season. So a couple of pieces of clarification that I did receive from the UHSAA. Looking through, if you ever have a chance to look through their regulations, there's a lot of them. But in regards to all-star games, there's 2 or 3 sentences that are in their regulations. One of them says that an all-star game has to take place 2 weeks after the last game takes place. The clarification that I read was 2 weeks after the last basketball game, which generally speaking is the 1A state game.
Yeah, not 2A,
yeah,
but the end of the 1A or 6A,
correct.
When it is.
That's correct. So that was the first thing that was said, and
so we were in full factual basis. The date we had of March 9th was within the UHSAA moratorium period.
Correct. There's a dead period after the season. Now,
2 weeks after the final 1A or 6A,
yeah,
not 2A.
Yeah.
So that we were, that's one that we were grayed out of.
Yeah, we were that. So that was, we could say that was one of the things they said. All right, we got to shut it down because of that. If you look inside the regulations, it also says that the UHSAA has no governing body, no stewardship, if you will, over seniors who have played their last game.
Yeah.
And then it also says the only all-star game that is sanctioned by the UHSAA is the Coaches Association game that takes place annually, usually a couple weeks after the season. I think they played it last weekend, but I'm not sure. So because of that, we shut it down. We talked to them and said, is there options? Was there anything with underclassmen, anything else? Just to be clear, there is nowhere in the regulations that say underclassmen cannot play in an all-star game. I'm not aware of that. I cannot find that. Have not been able to receive any clarification of that, but I can tell you it's nowhere in the procedures. That doesn't exist. So if you're throwing that out there, I would like to see where it's written down, but I can't see that. So we kind of let it go. And that's where we're at right now. It's a very gray area, in my opinion. Obviously, we're certainly trying to play by the rules. We're trying to play by the regulations. The last thing we want to do is get a player or a coach penalized for next season, trying to have an all-star game. But it's unfortunate.
Should I tell you what stung the most for me? Mm-hmm. What stung the most for me was I have no problem if we were not compliant with the guidelines in place, then we adjust accordingly. I have no problem with that. I'm not blaming any of that. That's our fault. That was the moratorium issue. I have no problem if there's guidelines that say underclassmen cannot participate. Okay, fine. What stung the most was the immediate assertion and blame that we were doing something illegal and that players were going to be ineligible if they participated in this game, as if we were doing some kind of point shaving or underhanded activity. Right. You know, that's what stung the most to me. Is all of this was just to fulfill the mission and to give back and give kids a fun opportunity to showcase their skills, reward them. And so really there was no, I don't know, the whole thing just went down so fast.
Yeah.
And it's such a gray area that we couldn't get really any solid confirmation as to a yes or a no. We can pull this thing off. So we're just hanging. We took the blow to the eye. We took it to the chin. But then no one could say why we took it to the eye and to the chin.
Yeah. That's
what the most frustrating thing was. And then here we are.
Yeah.
And I don't blame anybody. I don't have ill will towards anybody. We just hoped we could pull it off.
Well, we talked about this before the podcast about what was the purpose. What's the purpose of the fourth row and what was the purpose of the game? The purpose of the game was this. Number one, to give some credit to some kids who had some phenomenal seasons, right? Give them some recognition. But bigger than that, our goal beyond the recognition has been, let's bring the 2A community together so people become better friends. They mix with each other. What a better setting than you get players, parents, coaches, and schools together in one spot to have some friendly competition, but more importantly, to just be with each other and make friends, make lifelong friends, have a great experience, and then everybody goes back to their schools and they say, wow, that person from so-and-so school really is a really nice guy.
Pretty cool dude.
He's a pretty cool guy. I can't wait to play him next year. And then they see him next year and they're fist bumping before the games. And I think the thing that stung most for me was, well, two things. Number one is the fact that nobody can specifically tell us why we can't do it. That's the most frustrating thing. All I can get was, well, it's complicated. I don't buy that.
But anything new and anything that is against, I mean, let's be honest, we are very regimented and we do all the same things.
Yeah.
I mean, habitually, year after year after year, basketball, prom, baseball, graduate, everything is regimented. So you try to throw something that's a major curveball, which I don't know that it necessarily was a major curveball because logistically everything was handled by privately here. It wasn't anything that anybody else had to do. But that really threw, I mean, I was shocked. I was shocked at the waves that it caused.
I was too, and I was shocked, and I was also, to be very frank, I was very disappointed. Disappointed in the fact that this was something that between the fourth row, myself, you, Peyton, Cody, we had put this thing together by ourselves. We had 40 of the best players in two-way. Everything was taken care of. All we had to do was somebody to say, hey, that's a good idea. That's the only thing that had to happen.
But they did say it was a good idea.
Oh, they did say it was a great idea.
But you can't do it.
But you can't do it.
But we can't tell you why.
Yeah. Because it's complicated. No, and I don't want to...
Like I said, and we both, off the air before we came on here, this isn't we didn't want to blast anybody or blame anybody because it's not a blame. We just want to negotiate and just do something good.
Yeah.
And if we can negotiate through solidifying some policy, getting some rulings, whatever it is, we just want to pull it off for the sake of the kids.
Yeah.
And what good could come of it. So we're not here to blast anybody. We don't have ill will towards anybody. If nothing else, we made a good contact at the UHSAA. That hopefully we can continue some negotiations for this and anything else that may pop up.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of good comes from submitting new ideas and new concepts. Mm-hmm. It's going to be rough when you're dealing with the machine like this, the UHSAA, and just high school sports in general. To do something different, there's going to be some severe growing pains. And man, we got hit with them last week. It was a major blow. That was
it was a right hook out of nowhere.
Boom!
I mean,
right, the chops.
So
anyway, bottom line is no ill will from the fourth row. We just want to continue the dialogue. And if anybody else out there, we've always said this, we're open. And it's not like we have the monopoly on information. We would love to hear more information if anybody else knows more than we know on this situation.
Yeah, but mostly this is kind of clear in the air and let everybody know what happened and to talk in facts. If there's one thing I've learned in the age of information, there's so many things out there, right? You just hear things and they're out there. I did a lot of research. I spent hours looking at procedures after the fact to try to see, all right, is there a way that we can do this? Is there a way that we can do this? Because sometimes we get in this routine, like you said, we just do things over and over again. We say, well, this is how it is. I can tell you, factually speaking, there is nowhere that says an underclassman can't play in an all-star game. If somebody can show me that, I would love to see it. I cannot find it.
Interesting. We ran into our good friends, the Nilsons, down at the track meet. They're always at track meets. They were big podcast fans. They still are. Mm-hmm. And first thing, that was a bummer about your the basketball game. Yeah, it was a bummer. Well, what did they say? Why couldn't you have it? Moratorium. Other than that, I don't really know. I wish I could give you a good answer. But we did get a lot of positive feedback from the majority of people that would like to see something this. Hopefully, navigate through this and pull it off because it would be awesome.
We're not giving up this year. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do it this year, but We're not going to give up on the game. I'm still confident we'll figure out a way to do it. It's too good of a thing not to keep pursuing.
Can I tell you, factually, but since we're throwing facts out there, the amount of response, positive response that came back from every single coach that we spoke about this, no one raised the warning flag.
Nobody.
I'm not making excuses, or I'm not justifying 1 ounce. No one raised the warning flag in 2 years in discussion of this.
Nope.
So maybe we're all just didn't know, which is fine. Like I said, it's not a justification. I'm just saying we had unbelievable response from coaches and players and parents and administrators.
Yeah.
So, but for whatever reason, people, there's rules and policies in place, and there was some concerns about it, and so as soon as we found about it, we shut her down. Yeah. We didn't want to justify any players. We have obviously no intent of doing that. We want to follow the rules, and so we pulled the plug on it.
Yeah. Did it hurt?
But it stung.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I honestly, I felt like I had lost a state championship game. The next 2 days, I was frustrated and angry and disappointed, and every time something would come back up, I was just like, oh.
Or someone would say, hey, looking forward to your game.
Yeah.
Well, about that.
Yeah,
Let's
I got a text Thursday afternoon, and they said, hey, I'm looking forward to the game tonight. And I was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. It was just so, we had
the big, go on.
I just say we had invested so much time and energy into it in the background that we were, I mean, everything, my boy was pumped. Everybody was pumped. People from the community, all these coaches that aren't coaching anymore, everybody was excited for it, and then it was just this bomb that came out of nowhere.
The final stinger for me was Thursday afternoon. I did have a junior college basketball coach lined up to come to the game, and he just emailed me and says, hey, just making sure the game's on tonight. I'm like, you are the last loose end that I need to tie up.
No.
And so with all being said, it would have been a fantastic thing. We want to play by the rules, so we got to figure out what the rules are, and we need someone to clarify them for us.
So all those players who weren't
that would have been absolutely awesome.
Right.
Carry on, Andy.
I was going to say, everybody who was invited, we're still going to get your swag out to you.
Yep.
That was a big part of the game. We had.
I think the easiest thing to do is probably we'll just send it to the
school,
each individual school, address to them, and then they can get it that way. Yeah. A lot easier than getting addresses. But.
Yeah, it would have been so much fun. We had it all set out, introduced teams. We had our starting lineups. We got some good swag that we're going to get sent out to everybody who was a part of this. We'll figure out how to make it, but congratulations to all those kids who were going to be, on those teams.
And the one last plea that I can throw out there is if there's anybody that can help us in this process that knows more than we, or whatever the case may be, we would love to visit with you, and if we can help move this process along or help the negotiations along, we would be very welcoming of that.
All we need is somebody to say yes. Everything else is taken care of. Somebody just say, you can do it.
Or just say, this does not violate any UHSAA rules, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
One or the other would be fine.
Yeah.
We just want to do good.
Yeah.
We just want to do good. And like I said, just final wrap up as well is no ill will to anybody. Everyone was just trying to protect what they think is best and trying to protect student athletes. That's the most important thing. That's right. Let's carry on.
All right. Let's before we move on to a couple other things, let's talk about our MVPs for the season. Last year, we announced our inaugural Jackson Hill Fourth Row Memorial. I was actually talking to his dad the other day. Cooper Black from San Juan was our first MVP. Fantastic player, great kid. Had a great season, and he led his Broncos to the state in just an amazing state championship last year. I was texting his dad. We stay in touch, Coach Black.
Good dude.
He when we were talking about that, and we were talking about all-stars and everything else, and I said, Cooper will always be the first one. Very, very deserving.
Yeah.
He was the picture-perfect guy. So let's talk about and announce both officially our MVPs for the boys and the girls at Jackson Hill Memorial Players of the Year. Let's start with the boys.
For the boys, it's unanimous. The most impactful and dominating player in 2A, Brock Felder.
Oh, yeah.
From the state champion Parawan Rams.
Yeah. We've talked about this. This is a once-in-a-generational player for the last 2 years, there's nobody that has as much impact on two-way basketball as Brock Felder.
Just a couple stat line here. This season, 21 points per game, unbelievable. 57% field goal percentage. It's stepping out, shooting threes. He had 21 threes on the year, but also his dominance in the paint. So 57% field goal percentage, 11 rebounds per game, 31 total blocks on the season. And outside of that, you can say he had 31 blocks, but probably hundreds and hundreds of altered shots.
Oh, yeah.
Or people that just didn't even attempt to shoot because of his presence defensively. Offensively, you'll get scores, and there's some great scorers in 2A, and Brock could put up some points. He really honestly could. He had 21 per game. But his impact on the game defensively, unlike anybody else.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about this throughout the season. As a coach, you get in the locker room and you got guys' names up on the board, right? When you're playing Parowan, it's like in 60 font. It's like Brock Felder and all the other guys are down below him. Not that they're not important, but he is that big of an impact on a game.
You take, for example, the state championship game with Kanab. They had three guys dedicated to him. Mm-hmm. Kanab's defense did when Parowan was on offense. Mm-hmm. You got two guys, front, back, and then a third that would come and help as well. So he just impacted every single aspect of the game on both ends of the court. Mm-hmm. You had to account for him. 6'8". Like I said, this year he had 4 threes last year. He had 21 this year. So he stepped out, increased his range. That mid-range shot, the shot that he had in regulation in the state championship game, that's unguardable.
Yeah.
He just elevates from the free throw line, and he's going to make those, over half of the time. That one rimmed out. Mm-hmm. That's unguardable.
Yeah.
And in the post, they ran so many guys at him that it's hard to score that deep. But he had some dunks in the final, in the state championship games up there. Just a special player for 2A.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you, Gary was pumped to see Brock Felder come and play.
I mean, too. I told the other awesome thing about the game that we were going to host was connecting with the players that we hadn't met before and connecting with their parents. Mm-hmm. And it was, like I said, the whole thing was just playing it out. I'm like, this is so awesome. We're meeting new people, and they're getting to know us and what we're doing, and we're going to have players there. And I told the Felders, I said, the rims at Gunnison need to be loosened up a little bit. So we hope we can get Brock to come and participate, because we need some hanging on the rim to loosen those things up. And I said, selfishly, my boys want to see him play up close.
Absolutely.
So just his overall presence and impact of the game, he's made his mark. And it will be here on 2A for a long, long time, what he did this season, not only this season but last season, but winning a championship for the Parowan Rams and being our second Jackson Hill Player of the Year.
Yeah. Just a little bit of side note. I got another. It reminded me of another text I got this from Chesley Langston's mom. We were texting back and forth, and I just talked about what our goals were. Just said our goals were just bring people together. And her comment was, she said, "I love it. Friends instead of competitors. Prop to you guys." That was ultimately our goal. Was, and on top of that, everybody wanted to come see Brock Felder play. Right.
100%.
Everybody that talked to me, they said, "Is Brock coming?"
Yep.
Brady Crouch's dad texted me back. He's like, "Brady's always wanted to play with Brock." I mean, there were so many cool things about that. It would have been amazing. Congratulations to Brock Felder and the Parowan Rams on their state championship. Let's move to the girls' side, the MVP. This would be the inaugural. The first Jackson Hill Memorial 2A Girls Player of the Year is
Anna Cutler.
Yeah, hands down. I mean, there was some amazing players. But down the stretch, Anna Cutler took over and led the Kanab Cowboys to back-to-back state champions. Phenomenal season that she had. From what I can see, and sometimes these stats, they may be off just slightly towards the end of the year, but you look between Max Preps and Des News, and they're pretty close. But from what I can see so far, if I'm reading this correctly, 338 points, 48 three-point shots, 59 rebounds, 112 assists, and 61 steals for Anna Cutler this season.
Should I tell you what's most impressive to me? Stats, yes, those are very impressive. Point guards in state championship, in big games, point guards are so impressive to me. Because you watch and you watch the coach communicate. That's who they're communicating with. Mm-hmm. And point guards don't have the luxury, good ones and great ones on great teams, don't have the luxury to pout. They don't have the luxury to take plays off offensively or defensively or lose mental focus. They are locked in the entire time. Mm-hmm. They have to be. And you could just watch it. It was so impressive to watch. You see, Coach Glover just, hey, whatever his offensive call was or defensive call or whatever, it just went through her, and she would just nod her head as she's playing. While the action was going on, she would just nod her head, and then they just go. Very, very impressive.
Yeah. So great back-to-back seasons for the Kanab Cowboys, and if I'm not mistaken, they don't lose anybody this year, so you may possibly see a three-peat.
Yes.
I know Beaver's going to be back in there too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great to see her in that state championship game where they fell down early. Danzy Bradshaw came out unbelievable.
I think she had the first 12 or 14 points of the game for the Beavers.
Yeah, and I watched too. I was watching Cutler. She just slow and steady. They just kept going, and pretty soon they kept coming, and it didn't seem like they panicked. At least from the outside looking in, didn't seem like there was any panic, and she was the one who led that.
100%.
Led that. So
you take teams that are great teams, and you remove point guards such as Anna Cutler off those teams, they suddenly become not as good as an effective on both ends of the court. Just special players make teams great, and she is one of those this year.
Fantastic job. So congratulations to both Brock Felder and Anna Cutler on your 2A MVP Jack Memorial Awards this season.
100%.
Very exciting. Anything else for basketball before we officially turn the page?
The only other I had written down on my sheet here was some thoughts about all the awesome comments we got from players and parents when we launched out the invitation for the game. Those things just stuck in my mind, and I thought, man, this is what we envisioned. Mm-hmm. Some of the gracious, kids were pumped. We'd get messages from parents, from coaches, like this is, and we don't say this to pat ourselves on the back. Please don't take it that way. To me, it was more self-gratifying to read those text messages and emails that came back from people. Mm-hmm. No, and even after the game got canceled, it was still, people were like, dude, thank you. Mm-hmm. Like I said, not breaking our arms, patting ourselves on the back by any means, because ultimately this would have been awesome for kids. Mm-hmm. So that would be my parting thought for basketball was we met a lot of, once again, we added to where we were last year with meeting new people, more coaches, more players, and just for the record, I've corresponded in emails with Coach Rod Murphy. We got put on blast because we didn't know Coach Murphy, and we exchanged some emails. We invited him to come coach the game, and he was pumped about it. He was absolutely pumped to come do it, and then subsequently we had to pull the plug right after that, unfortunately. But we've met a lot more. We've expanded with the girls especially. We expanded our reach and our friendship all the way up to Coach Baldwin from APA Draper, and those players up there, just girls all in general. We met a lot of new people, awesome people.
Yeah, I just had a couple other people reach out to me this week. People just said, "Hey, what? This is kind of one of my final comments I've learned from the season." People say, "How can we get our name on the podcast? How can we do this?" I can tell you the very best thing you can do is reach out to us. We're two guys who have families. We have full-time jobs. We do this as a part-time hobby. We do have some sponsors, but really it pays for all the stuff you see here and a couple other things to get some swag out for All-Star games. We're doing this because we love it, and we love to give recognition back to the kids. but we can't be everyone. We can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you want
like to be,
we would love to be. If you would like us to have some more information, reach out to us.
I did. There was one that came across the instant messenger last week, right?
Yeah. So I'm just looking at it right now. Brady Sargent, Buck Sargent's dad, up in North Summit. He's an active listener, and he basically just said, "Hey, what can we do to get some more hype up here at North Summit High School?" I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And we talked about his son Buck, who had a great season. I think he had 8 or 9 double doubles. We talked about him, not a fair amount, but we talked about him this season, and we talked about football and some different things that were coming up for North Summit High School. That is what makes a big impression on us. So I can guarantee you, next year in football, I'm going to be looking for Buck Sargent. I'm going to be looking for Brady Sargent, whether we make it up to Colville or they come down here. I want to meet him and say hi and just say thanks for giving a shout out to us, because this is the only way that we can do this.
Yeah.
We don't have time to go to every game, and we'd love to, but we just can't.
Yeah.
So you got something positive, or you want to just say hi and give us suggestions? We've said that from day one, and the people who reach out to us, we'll let you know. And so Brady, thanks for reaching out to us. That means a lot to us.
Yeah, but it gives us. Yeah, we are. A lot of times we don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
And you tip us off, and we're all over it.
Absolutely. So, anyway, thank you for doing that.
And we get several of those just in passing with people as well. So that's probably my wrap of basketball. This season was even better and bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, and it felt fast.
It went really fast.
It seemed like that we didn't have enough time, especially with Peyton on this season. There was so much information we couldn't get it all done, but it was great. I look forward to next year. Now that we know even more about the girls' side, so we're going to get a leg up next year, and we'll just keep on rolling.
One other parting thought that I looked through my notes here. I wanted to give a special shout out to our good friend Darren Rhodes. One thing One thing when we started the podcast is we always promised ourselves that we would be as genuine and honest and as transparent as possible. Because without that, we're just regurgitating information that no one really cares. But in order to build friendships and relationships with people, you have to be vulnerable and you have to be transparent and honest and genuine. And I can honestly say, Coach Darren Rhodes, from the time that I met him and since the time we've been running this podcast, he's been a great friend. He's done a fantastic job with the Millard Eagles over the past, I think he's been there 3 seasons coaching, 3 seasons. He's retired now. He's resigned from coaching from the Millard Eagles, and I'm happy for him. He's one of the ones I spoke about on the previous podcast of friends that I wanted to see make a deep run in the tournament, simply because of what they put into the game and the time they spend with kids and developing kids. And I know that he wanted it for his kids. He wanted to make a deep run in the state tournament. So special shout out to him and his friendship and his relationship with the fourth row. All class with us, 100% all class. And I'm 100% unapologetic in saying I was disappointed that he didn't make a deep run in the state tournament.
Yeah, they were fantastic. And just to set the record straight, I know a lot of people ask us, they wore our warm-up shirts all season. Just to set the record straight, he made a very generous donation to the Slim 4 Foundation that will go directly to that. And we got some shooter shirts for them. That's what it is. So if you're wondering, why did they have those fourth row, he reached out and said, this is what I want to do.
And he would be angry at me if we said this, because he doesn't want any recognition for it. And unfortunately, that there was a public complaint about that, and I felt it necessary to set the record straight in the fact that Darren Rhodes was all class.
100%.
In all class, and the reason why is he wanted to, as a friend, he wanted to participate in the foundation in Jackson's name. Simply, basically as simple as that.
Yeah.
So very class act, great coach, and he's going to go enjoy and do some fun things now.
Yeah.
He put in the time and it gave his kids a great experience for many, many years, but he's moving on.
Yeah.
So shout out Coach Rhodes.
Yeah. Good luck. We'll miss you. There's those friendships that last. Obviously, there's good people everywhere, but a lot of people that reach out and kind of special places to us for different reasons, and Coach Rhodes is one of those, so we'll miss him next season.
You bet.
Whoever takes over Millard Eagles, wish them good luck next season. They got a good program over there, some really good kids. So
that's a wrap on basketball, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to come to an end.
I know.
I just didn't want it to.
Yeah, we had a great run this year.
But we'll stick a fork in it and we'll move on.
Yeah. Well, let's turn the page to spring sports briefly. We're just going to talk just for a minute tonight. Baseball season obviously has started. Track season started. Soccer season started. Probably our biggest focus this year will be on baseball, and we're also going to do a little bit more track. We got a little bit of track last year, and track is one of those sports that incorporates so many kids in schools that it's hard not to kind of follow, and all these individual accolades that kids go out and do, and they push themselves hard. We want to recognize some of that too. So it's a little bit harder because there's so many events and so many schools, but we'll make sure that when you come back from the track meets, we'll get our track updates. And
we'll give you the update the best we can. The other good thing about track is it's all statistically driven, so you can quickly see the results of track meets. You can see where each individual ranks in each in each category, I should say, and you can quickly see who are the favorites based upon the times they run. But you are correct. Track is an awesome sport to go follow them and participate in because of the amount of kids that can participate. You got your fast kids. You got your and I say this because I have kids like this. You got your long, skinny kids that can run long distances. Your fast kids. You got Wyatt Orton over throwing the implements and having a good time. And you got the jumpers. There's just so many things, and there's so much going on. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we're excited to give it a little bit more coverage. I had a great talk with Coach Mason from North Summit at the basketball games, and I know he's pumped from North Severe.
North Severe.
Yeah, they always have a great team down there. So excited for that. Brief overview of baseball. 2A is an interesting classification between football and basketball and baseball. You get all kind of dynamics that change between those three sports, probably more so than any other classification. So in 2A baseball, you have an East and West. I still haven't figured out how that would work. I remember last season, I'm like, East and West is like North and South, but you've got the 2A East, which is Duchesne, Gunnison Valley, San Juan, Monticello, North Severe, North Summit, and South Severe. And then the 2A West, which is mainly Region 19, the Beavers, Enterprise, Millard, Kanab, Milford, and Parowan. We'll talk briefly here just in a second about our early Power 5 on these teams. Before we started the podcast, this is one thing that's always hard about spring sports, and that's the weather.
Oh, yeah. It was even terrible in St. George.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this on the drive down my muddy, wet road, is that 8 weeks from yesterday, baseball is over.
Isn't that wild?
I mean,
it is the shortest season.
It is short, and
spring season.
And you look at the 10-day outlook right now. The weather outlook doesn't look good for the next week and a half. 50s with rain and snow possible. That's here in Gunnison. Now, the South teams might be a little bit better. I talked to Coach Bull Morrill from North Summit. He's like, I don't think we'll see our field all year long.
Ooh, it's brutal.
And I imagine Duchesne's probably not much different. You get over into Blanding. Coach Black sent me a picture from his house. He lives north of Blanding a couple weeks ago, and he had 3 feet of snow. And so it's going to be an interesting season. It's very competitive. I think the teams there's a couple teams we'll talk about here briefly that are going to rise above, and I think they're kind of some of the favorites. But there's a lot of teams out there. Baseball is one of those games that's with the pitching rules and everything it's wide open.
Yeah, it's wide open.
So we're not going to talk about a whole lot of baseball tonight, mainly because I've never believed a whole lot in early preseason baseball games. Teams played some games this weekend. Quite frankly, I put no credence into them. The kids are coming off of basketball. It's cold. They're most of them haven't even been on their fields.
Pitchers are throwing maybe 2 innings, 3 innings at a time, perhaps.
Yeah. Which is a discussion for another day too, of wishing they could just start the RPI a little bit later in the season.
Giving them some warm-up games.
That's a discussion for another day, but it's so hard in these early spring, and the season is so fast. You have to get games in because there's no time to make up.
That's a great point. They have an ending point that's coming up rapidly.
Yeah. And the weather is going to be a factor. It's not like basketball where you can always have a game. Baseball, you're 100% depending upon the weather. Football, you can always go out and play. Soccer, you can go out and play. Baseball, you just can't.
Yeah.
And if you do, it does adversely affect the outcome. So as the weeks go on, we're definitely going to ramp up our baseball coverage as we move on. But just for tonight, you want to roll in a quick early season Power 5?
Let's do it. Throw them out there.
So I'll be the first to admit we've been overwhelmed with basketball.
The past 2 weeks, I'm telling you, has taken a couple extra days off my life.
Yeah, and some other things personally for me.
Playing mental gymnastics.
My mind just hasn't. My mind hasn't been in it as much as we could. So we apologize for that. We'll get back in the groove here next week.
We're coming full bore at you.
But I'm going to go through I'm going to call it my way too early Power 5. I know the season has started, but I really think it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks before you see really what teams have to offer. So I'm going to start at the bottom here. We're kind of winging this a little bit tonight. Normally say this is talk about what really matters, and that's the Power 5. Tonight we're going to talk about a way too early Power 5.
Way too early, yes.
Two dark horses that I have for this season. Number one is the Beavers. Last year they had a young team. They made a little bit of noise. Just didn't have enough horsepower to get down. Beavers traditionally a very good program. They're coached well. Coach Carter down there. They're 3-1 early on in the season, and they're scoring a lot of runs, and they've got some pitching. Beavers always good.
Yeah, and they'll grind games out.
Yeah. And so
they're very good at that.
Currently, I have Duchesne as one of my dark horses. The other dark horse I have is Gunnison Valley Bulldogs. I think Gunnison is, I don't want to say they're rebuilding. I think they're one step above that. They've got some incoming freshmen that I think are going to make a difference. Why can't I think of his name? Pickett.
Oh, that'd be our good friend Braxton Pickett.
Braxton.
He's at the house. He's out at the house quite a bit, and we're actually really excited about. He's a fine young man, and he's excited to get playing.
Very good baseball player. And we got some good returners.
Got some seasoned veterans, some seniors on the mound. Easton Newman has thrown a lot of big innings for the Bulldogs. Zach Brackett's put in a lot of time and innings for the Bulldogs, pitching and in the field. So they've got some good leadership to do some things.
Yeah, and
Coulter King, another one behind the plate. He's put in a lot of
Jake
innings.
Sorensen.
Yeah,
they've got some the Sanders boys. They've got a lot of things and the most dynamic coaching staff around. If you need some entertainment, the Sanders.
Maybe, that's true. One very entertaining.
Yeah, that's true.
And the other is probably trying to tamp the the enthusiasm down, but yeah, a lot of fun there.
Yeah. So those are our two dark horses for this season. I think both of those teams can make a run. Let's start at the bottom, number 5. I think I'm going with the Duchesne Eagles. Duchesne brings a lot back. They've got a core group with Goodliff and Parker Crum. They got a bunch of younger guys too. They had a really good season, kind of fell off towards the end of last year, but they've got a lot of kids with a lot of experience. And so I know they're excited up there in Duchesne. I do think they can make a run. The challenge with them is going to be, they have enough pitching down the stretch. Ultimately, you get in the state tournament, you got to have a whole bunch of pitchers.
That's 5?
That's number 5. Number 4 is the San Juan Broncos. Now,
they're always in the mix.
I know that you will remember our battles with the San Juan Broncos back in the day.
Absolutely.
For years and years, they had some of the premier baseball teams in 2A. They were just unbelievably good. They're rebuilding.
Was that Coach Bowers?
Coach Bowers.
Yeah. They got after it.
We got after it with them more than a couple times. Coach Nielsen over there, when they moved back from 3A to 2A last year, they took it on the chin. They just had a rough season. They've got most of their guys coming back this year. They can score a lot of runs. The question is, are they going to have any pitching? That was kind of what they struggled with last year. They finished with a 15-10 record last year. They were 8-4 in region, but I think they can make some noise. I'm hearing some rumblings out of San Juan from some different people over there. They're ready to make some noise. So I'm excited to see what the San Juan Broncos can do. Number 3 is the Kanab Cowboys. The one thing I like about the Kanab Cowboys, they got a new coaching staff down there. Mm-hmm. Craig Brinkerhoff, Justin Norton. Those are some guys who were a part of the last state championship team from Kanab. They've got some energy. They got some life down there. They made, in my opinion, the perfect transition from Coach Fox to these guys last year.
Oh, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better transition.
Textbook, here's the old gray hair. He's still in the dugout. He's still calling the shots. The new guys are out on the field. He let them run the game. And then when the season's over, they turned the team over to them. The players already had bought in. The players already knew. They're 2 alumni from Kanab. They know what it's all about. And I'm excited to see what they can. Kanab went 17-11 last year. They had the Rams on the ropes early in the tournament and just couldn't quite hold on.
Quarterfinal game. Yes, they did.
They had them. And just couldn't quite hold on. The question for Kanab will be is, the solid core, who's going to replace Bracken McQuivy, who was their innings eater last year. That guy was a workhorse. And R.J. Mognat, who was arguably one of the best catchers in 2A last year. If they can replace those guys, I think I can make a run. They were 8-2 in region last year, had a great season. I'm expecting them to make some noise. Number 2 is the Enterprise Wolves.
You're turning into an Enterprise homer.
I do. I am a little bit of an Enterprise homer. I have some great friends in Enterprise.
Now, let me ask you, why do you have great friends in Enterprise? And I'll tell you one reason.
I have great friends in Enterprise because over the last couple years, they have reached out to me and I've reached out to them, and we have built some great friendships.
I can tell you, we go to an event that Enterprise is at, and I can guarantee you'll be visiting with your friends from Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
What cooler thing could there be? Normally, if you go to another game, opposing game, you just go sit by yourself. Mm-hmm. They're good people.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. Anyway, I'm kind of joking you say that, but you got great friends.
No, absolutely not. I think that brings up a good point. I think it goes back to say, why do we talk about people all the time? So last year at the Kanab Cowboy Classic, I went down there. I was by myself, went down to watch some baseball games and some track for the weekend. I was watching an Enterprise game, and all of a sudden a gentleman came up to me and introduced himself. He says, "Hey, I'm Duke Randall. I'm Ryland Randall's dad." And I said, "It's a pleasure to meet you." Yeah. And we struck up a conversation. We found out we had a lot of things in common, a lot of things with the fourth row and a whole bunch of different things. And we visited for a minute, and then Brady Crouch's dad, Jim, came and said hi. And I said, "Man, it would be really nice if I had some Enterprise hats." I said, "I don't have an Enterprise hat." I'll be danged if it wasn't a couple hours later, he came back with an Enterprise hat for me. Now, it was a small little gesture, but from there we have struck up a genuine friendship, and we text all the time about our kids and life and everything else. And it all started because we had a podcast, and he came up and introduced himself.
Bingo.
That's why, I guess you can call it, that's why I'm an Enterprise homer, because I have now developed a friendship with a lot of folks there. Coach Bud Randall, his dad, Levon, I've met him. We text quite frequently, and got a visit with him at the state tournament. Just genuinely good people. And that's, does Enterprise deserve to be number 2 in this? Did they deserve all the accolades they had in basketball? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, unquestionable.
Do we talk about them maybe a little bit more than everybody else? Yeah, probably because of that friendship and those relationships. So I think Enterprise is going to be solid again this year. They've got a great group coming back. Coach Bundy's one of the best in the business. He's old gray hair.
You've been around a long time and won a lot of games.
He's won a lot of games, and he's old school. There's nothing frilly about Enterprise baseball. They are old school. It's like Bud. Fundamentals. That's what they do. They win down there. They were 8-2 in region last year. 19-7. Didn't make the best run in the state championships that they would have liked to last year. They lost Ryland Randall who graduated, they will miss him, but they've got a bunch of kids coming up. Ryland's younger brother, Trayson's fantastic player. He also has a younger brother, too, that's playing. Brady Crouch plays. They got a bunch of these basketball guys that are ready. Jake Sanderson, who's not a basketball guy, but he's going to come and play. Parker Staley. They've got a good group. I look for them to make a run. And the tops.
Before you get rid of Enterprise, we tee-heed them about having the most boring uniforms in 2A last year, and we were informed they got some new ones.
Yes, Coach Bundy made sure he let us know they got some new ones.
So if you got a new Enterprise hat, we can replace this one if you got a new one.
Good folks down there. They're good people. The number one spot, I think this goes without saying, South Severe Rams. 20-3 last year, 10-1 in region. They've got all their key guys back. The question really is, can they go back to back? We were both a part of a coaching staff in Gunnison. 2006, we lost to the state championship to San Juan. 2007, we bounced back, and we won the state championship. The next year, we lost one guy, Chase Mackey, who was a key player. But 2008, that second year, was, in my opinion, as an assistant coach, the hardest season that I was ever a part of.
Oh, it was much more intense every single game because the mega target is on your back every single game, whereas the year before, you just have these bright-eyed juniors that just are hungry and they're just playing loose. And that senior year, it turned into a grind.
It was a grind, and I would say
mainly because being the favorite is at times more stressful than being the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
Having the target on your back every single game where everyone's going to bring their best every single game. The good teams, they survive it. Mm-hmm. And some don't.
Yeah.
Gunnison that particular year, they did.
They survived it.
And, at the end, it was a no-doubter.
Mm-hmm.
But this South Severe team is extremely talented.
Yeah, and they've got a group of seniors, and then they got a group of sophomores. And those sophomores, I can tell you, are hungry. I ran into Stockton Roberts, after at the basketball state championships, and he's like, "We're ready." And he's one of those sophomores that's coming back who had huge impact last year in the state tournament as a freshman.
Well, yeah, he came in and had to pitch.
Yeah,
early on. Yes,
but you got guys. You got Ridge Tebbs, you got Riley Barney, you got Keegan Heath, you got all these basketball guys that are now transitioning over to baseball. And you're right. I think nobody would argue they are the best team going into the season, but they've got a mega target on them.
And a lot of things have to fall into place. Got to stay healthy. You got to just anyway. You can't be trunky. There's just a lot of factors that go into it. But on the surface right now, South Severe is the talented team, top to bottom, pitching, hitting, fielding. They are loaded.
Yep, absolutely.
Kind of excited to see what they can do. I mean, because and it also is fun from an outside standpoint when you have a team like that. Like I said, you want to be the team to go knock them off.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everyone's going to be gunning for them, but South Severe, they are. I think they're up for the task.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yep.
So it's going to be a lot of fun to see if someone can challenge them to knock them off, but also to see how good this team can be.
Yep. So congratulations to Coach Baker and all his players for our first Power 5 of the season for baseball.
You're way too early, Power 5?
Way too early.
I like it, though.
It's, there's still a lot of things. Like I say, it's so early. It's hard to – you can look at stats, you can look at things, but what happens now and what happens 6 weeks from now is going to be very different.
And up to this point, South Severe hasn't even played a game yet.
I think their first game's on the 17th.
Maybe they're wise in the fact that they just selected to play a little bit later.
They're a little bit smarter. I don't think they play until Wednesday or Thursday of this week.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of teams that haven't played, mainly because of weather. I think these guys had scheduled it that way, and you just cram everything in the best. And let's hope for the best that the weather will cooperate.
Where is the state tournament this year?
It's at UVU.
We have very good memories at UVU.
Yeah, we won 2 state championships at UVU.
Yeah, lost one, then won 2 straight after that.
Yeah, that's some
great memories.
That's some very good memories. Very good memories as a coach. Being out now, they've changed all the turf, but I don't know if you remember this. I can remember showing up on a Saturday morning. It was a beautiful May morning. The music's going. We're out playing catch in the outfield. That was a lot of fun.
That was special.
It was a special time, and we had a great group of kids who came together.
Speaking of that, I think I told you this. I visited with our good friend Jared Anderson this weekend down in St. George. It was great to reconnect with him, and we talked about some old days, the olden times, and we talked about what's going on now and the future, and it was good to visit with him.
Yeah,
one of the best baseball coaches in the state of Utah.
Yeah, won 4, if I'm not correct, four state championships.
One of the most winning and best coaches in not only 2A, but in the state of Utah.
We were both part of that staff in 2007, 2008. We got to go to back state championships. We won 2, lost 1, but very few kids even get there. We had a chance to be a part of 2 of those. 2 of those 4. So that's really where that baseball tradition was solidified. Was during Jared's era.
Coach Anderson, he started with his dad, and then handed down to Jared, and he had a fantastic run there.
Yeah.
And now Max, who was on that 2007, those 2 back-to-back championship teams, he is now the skipper.
Yep, he caught the last line drive in 2007.
Yes,
I remember that. So a lot of good memories for baseball. We look forward to this.
Basketball is always been the thing that we've talked a lot about on the podcast. But once it's hard to turn the page and move to the next season. I always felt that as a player too. It's hard to flick that page, but once you start getting into it, man, it's exciting. Even now talking about the baseball memories and the grass and all that kind of stuff. It's exciting to turn that page.
Yeah, it is good. And for me, just as we go to wrap up tonight, I think part of what's been hard for me to turn the page was everything, the state tournament and the game and everything else. I
kind of took a little bit out of you.
I remember, going back to, I'm going to talk about Enterprise for a minute. I remember talking to Duke Randall, who was Rylan Randall's dad last year, after the state championship, that heartbreaker that they lost last year. And he said, Rylan's a baseball guy. He's got a Division I scholarship when he comes back from his mission to go and play at Minot State, I believe, up in North Dakota. And he said he didn't want to play. Didn't want to play baseball just because it was so hard to turn the page.
It's hard to turn it.
And for me, this season, it's been hard to turn the page this year. I think we've become so invested in everything that's going on that even for me, with the weather, I think, and everything, I'm like, I'm just not ready to turn it. But I'm like, all right, it's time to go.
Yep.
So we're excited. We're excited for spring season. It's going to bring a whole new storylines this year. I have no idea what's going to happen.
You got new storylines. You got new coaches. You got new players that we got to get to know. And
we got a lot of things. So in the coming weeks, we're going to dive into all these people. So again, the invitation. This is my final thought for tonight. The invitation is always open. If you'll reach out to us and figure out what we're doing and say, hey, here's some feedback. Here's what we'd like to see. Here's some stories. Here's something to look for. That's how we get to know. How did we get to know all these people? It's because of that. How do we get to know people from? We got some good friends from Duchesne. I'm looking at this: San Juan, Kanab, Enterprise, South Severe. We've had good communication with. I could name dozens of people from those 3 schools right now that I didn't know a year ago. All because they came up to us and said, "Hey, you're the 4th row guys, aren't you? Yeah. Hey, we appreciate it. Hey, what about this? Tell us about this." That's how it works.
Yep.
So that's my final thought for tonight. Anything else?
My final thoughts was thank you to everybody that participated during the basketball season. We're not free, nor are we. We can take the criticism.
Yeah,
we're not soft enough that we can't take some darts But I want to thank everybody that participated and helped make this a bigger and better project than the year before. A lot of people have participated in whatever fashion, communication, messages, saying hi, whatever it is. Thank you to everybody that participated in their own way to help us continue to share the game of basketball, to help share the accolades and the success of players and coaches. So just thanks to everyone, and let's just keep making it bigger and better.
Yeah.
And special thanks to Peyton.
Yeah.
Peyton was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we took, just a quick thing. Our downloads for our podcast were 2.5 times what we were last year.
Yeah.
So the reach is getting out there. People are getting out there, and it's not really anything we're doing. People are just sharing the good word. So we appreciate everything that people are doing.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
Very thankful to everyone involved.
Yeah, it's been a good run. Well, as we come to a close tonight, we officially turn the page on basketball. We move to spring sports. I'm your host, Andy Hill. This is the coach, Benny Hill. And for the fourth row, we're out.
Thank you for spending your time with the Fourth Row. For more information, check out our website at fourthrowmedia.com or send us a message through any of our social media channels.